Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Iowa soccer supporters. I'm Ben Brackett, your Soccer Talk co-host, alongside my good buddy Blake Severs. CO, what up?
We're back in the lair, Ben. So it's always a good time in here.
Yeah, we love it in the lair. We actually forgot to put our backdrop up, but it's too late now because we're on take 2 for our live stream so far. Apologies that you have to look at the closet door, but also a great plug for our live stream, and not only our live stream but our YouTube channel. Beautiful faces. If you are not also enjoying us on the podcast,
That's a good plug. Check us out on YouTube. Kick it forward. Our subscribers are growing every week.
this is true. So tonight's game of the week, Friday night for a game of the week. It was beautiful out. It was one of those days that started off pretty rainy and nasty, but it stayed warm all day. So by the end of it, we were pretty pleased overall with what we had going on.
As the weatherman, I would kind of like to chime in there. So it started out absolutely awful today. So it rained about 3/4 of an inch by noon. We had flash flood warnings in northern Polk County, um, northern Dallas County, which game of the week, Waukee we had. But then by about 2 o'clock, it cleared up, and it was absolutely unbelievable for the first time in a week or whatnot. So it was a great little night to go out and watch some high school soccer.
Who do we watch, Siebes?
Yeah, so we traveled east to Williams Stadium, which is kind of interesting. As the East Des Moines Public School system, Des Moines East has their own stadium, which they share with Grandview. But for those that don't know right now, the big talk in the news is the Drake and DMPS shared soccer, football, multi-sport stadium. There, they're just east of the Knapp Center, which, as an alum, as a soccer guy, I'm all about it. But East has their own pretty cool stadium, right? There's lights, turf. So yeah, we went over there and watched the Waukee girls go up against the Scarlets from East.
That's right, Blake. It was a bit of a subdued start. Showed up a few minutes late, but not that late. Still 0-0, and there had been a collision that resulted in what it sounded like was potentially some sort of concussion. Sounds like the protocols have heightened a little bit, and so when there's something like that happens, they pause the play and they had an ambulance on the field and the whole shebang. So hopefully that young lady is all right. The player from East, which left the team a little bit shorthanded to start the game. I guess we've just kind of hopped into it, unless we didn't tell anybody we were going to do that, but that's what we did. So anyway, pretty kind of weird first 10 minutes, but then they got things started again, and Waukee kind of jumped on it quick, scored early, and ultimately there was really no looking back. But I think there was probably a little bit more to it, even though maybe the score line was pretty straightforward. There was a little more to it, I think, than that, right?
Yeah, so we watched. There's an interesting conversation, or definitely a conversation that needs to happen. So we went and watched the Des Moines North girls a couple weeks ago play, and we talked to our good friend Lisa Grief at the boss there. She struggles with numbers, so we watched another DMPS school with East go up against our good buddy James Brooks. And immediately you walk in and you see the bench of East does not have many girls suited up.
Like maybe one or two.
So, like you talked about the concussion, Ben. So we talked to Reed Bickley, the boss of the Scarlets at halftime, and because of the concussion, they literally had a sub for the rest of the game. So, and it's a Friday night, so it's the end of the week. They've already played. They've already played this week, and it's a challenging um, challenging situation for the coach, for the players, and I don't know what the right answer is. I may have some ideas, but it was. I think that's something that needs to just be brought up when they're going up against Waukee, who last year before they split schools had over 100 girls out, and now the East varsity program has 12 girls or 13 suiting up for the varsity game.
And I don't recall what James told us that he had how many girls he had go out for the Waukee squad, but I do recall the boys, being in that like 90 per school kind of area. So I would imagine the girls aren't much behind that. Maybe even if they're in that 60, range, that's still pretty significant. But yeah, you're right. I think there could be a conversation there. I think that the Roosevelt girls have a strong program currently, and strongly attended program, I guess, numbers wise. And then same with Lincoln. They have decent numbers. I'd be curious what the situation is at Hoover. But regardless, it's just, it's too bad because I think maybe the underlying story here is that East High team had some pretty decent little players. Again, the score line, it was 6-0 to Waukee, but uh, I thought that East High team had some players.
Yeah, you can't avoid it, right? Like Waukee clearly was better. Um,
More athletic.
yeah, more athletic, much more technical. But I would be, I think it'd be interesting if you took your top 11 players from both those teams that we watched tonight. There would, to me, there would easily be 2 to 4 East girls in that top, even 6 or 7 numbers, because there's a couple of those girls in midfield were like playing balls in behind that their teammates didn't really recognize, and a couple of reverse passes like, oh, that's actually like that was good. So um, definitely give credit to Reed Bentley and the East squad, because again, they don't have the depth clearly. They don't have the number of quality players, but they, again, they're struggling record wise on the year. But I think, like we talked to Lisa over at North, like I think they're offering a different experience for some of their kids and some of their girls that maybe need to have a different experience than some of the suburban schools.
It's true, and you mentioned the amount of games. Like I was just looking quick at the East, uh, the rosters, and the JV squad and the varsity squad have some definitely some overlapping players, and so we talk about there only being a couple subs. So that a lot of times that means these girls are pulling double duty, which is pretty impressive. But so then the Waukee team, uh, also, I guess you mentioned this going into the game. They were 2-4. You mentioned this to me before we started. They're 2-4. Uh, losing start to the season. This will bring them to 3-4. But they also a talented squad. Had some really fast, quick players, and first three goals that were scored by Waukee, at least that I saw, were all balls in behind, uh, 50, 30, 40 yards from goal, running onto it, breakaway, one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And I think, if anything, we give the East High goalie a tip on getting like real big and coming out and being a little bit more obnoxious because, it was a little tough. She was just, she had a lot of time to think about it, I guess was maybe the problem.
Yeah, Milwaukee's young, right? Like we talked to James a couple of weeks now. It may have been a couple of months ago now on the podcast, but they are super young. So we talked to both squads coaches at halftime, and Waukee was frustrated, right? We talked to James. We got a little interview with his assistant Paul, but they were frustrated. Um, but it's almost like, hey guys, remember, you've got a lot of freshmen, sophomore, and this is some juniors and seniors sprinkled in.
Yeah, we should shout those players out because in that little bit of time there that I had to watch by myself, I was able to see uh, Laney Haviland and Harvey Woods, both freshmen, scoring assist goals to each other. They were both dynamic players. And then Blake also mentioned that he liked the Rita Dandridge sophomore. I think that goes to show you what you're working with. And the Waukee is probably going to be a power in the future, I would guess.
Again, it's interesting, right, with the breakaway from Northwest and Waukee kind of sticking around. So it will. I think it'll be interesting to see how the Warriors from the quote old school Waukee, which we love the old school Waukee Warriors, right? Compared to the new Northwest team. But I think a lot of these girls play together over at VSA. So and obviously the boys programs have some coaches that Carlos is the Northwest coach. Now Ryan Sander is the boys coach over at Waukee, both coaching the VSA club there. And I think it's a little different on the girls' side when you have James coaching the Waukee girls, not involved in the VSA program, and Tony Gabriel coaching the Northwest girls. So definitely, unfortunately, they do not play against each other this year. The girls don't, but the boys do. So we're looking forward to that.
That's our little preview. Next game of the week. Next week will be that game in particular, or one of the games in particular will be the boys derby. Is that funny? Anyway, shout out to VSA though, because they probably had like however many players on the field. All the walking players. I bet you there must have been like one East High player, right? Maybe. It's a long drive, potentially. But I think that probably ends up becoming like the main difference is the amount of club players that a school like Waukee has compared to a school like East. That's probably one of the biggest differences, I would say, right?
Yeah, I think definitely the resources. Absolutely.
So what do you know about the girls game otherwise, Severs? What are the rankings looking like? I saw that my Valley Tigers are still top of the table, running things. Do you have you looked up the rankings recently so that we can bring the people up to date? He quickly starts to Google it.
Well, no, it's interesting, right? Because like the girls' high school athletic union has their rankings, and the boys have their own. Chapman's got the Tigers, top of the state.
I said top of the table, but you're right. State.
Yeah.
Oh, and these?
No, those are boys. Bad. The girls do it differently. So,
I saw it just today.
but you have Ankeny, Centennial up there as well. So maybe stay tuned. We next week is big rivalry week. Yeah. So anything else, Ben, or do you want to? Are you? IG. So here's how impromptu we do this because we're live right now after the game, trying to look up the girls rankings, which Ben is the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union. Here they are. So we got them right now. Okay, so I think we should talk 3A, right? Just because that's the game we went to. So you got Valley. Again, you have the Hawkettes at Ankeny.
That was the one that I thought was interesting. Council Bluffs.
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln. Then you got Centennial. And then you got Tony Gabriel, Tony Gabriel's squad up at Waukee Northwest.
They're fifth.
Then you have Pleasant Valley, Dowling Catholic, JP, the Scots, and then Muscatine, Roosevelt, Bettendorf round out the top 10. So quite a bit of an Eastern Iowa influence out there.
Shout out to the Johnson Dragons at 14, other Central Iowa squad, but otherwise, really a pretty heavy Eastern Iowa lineup, I would say, compared to what we're used to.
Yep. So stay tuned. Check us out on YouTube. Kick It Forward. If you search, Twitter is KIF_soccer. Instagram, KIF soccer. And we look forward to talking to you guys next week for the next game of the week.
Rivalry week.